Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
I aborted. I forgot my intro.
Sorry, I have that effect on people.
Yo, what is up, my friends? Welcome back to What the French Toast, your favorite podcast on the internet that leaves you asking yourself the question, Megan.
What the French toast did I just listen to?
And today is going to be exactly that, guys, because, look, I ain't going to lie to you. I was doing research for this, and I was like, what the is happening in these forests? And one of my favorite things to talk about is strange disappearances in forests, and today we have an abundance of strange disappearances in a national park, and potentially potentially the strangest string of disappearances we've ever had in a national park. And some people say it's a serial killer, some people say it's supernatural. I think it's supernatural, but I'll let you guys decide whenever you hear the story. And then, Megan, I want to hear your thoughts about it whenever I finish the story. But with that being said,
we are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy podcast. I'm Declan, the son.
And I'm Jane, the mom. This is the podcast where we talk about brutal crimes like serial killers and the random one-off murder. We will tell you about bizarre occurrences like alien abductions and monsters in the dark. And we just might get you drunk with cocktails themed around one of our stories.
At the very end of every show, we like to lighten things up and cleanse the palate from the tragic and terrifying stories. So we end our time with a chaser. You might get to hear crazy stories about our pets or just silly movie recommendations.
Give us a listen. We are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy podcast.
hold on, let me turn this light off so I don't look like I have a sunburn on my face. All right, is this better? I can't. Megan, you're muted.
I'm an idiot. I don't know why you don't just record like that, honestly.
Well, it's because right now I have my notes up, and so whenever like you're doing your topic, unless I'm just having my screen up, but then I can't see you. Like I can't see any like video. I can't see anything that's happening. I just have like my notes up here.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. So have you ever heard of the Valley of Headless Men?
No.
So this is about the Valley of Headless Men, and it's deep in the remote wilderness of Canada's Northwest Territories. There's a land called the Nahanni Valley, and it's about 11,000 square miles of pure wilderness. And in 1976, they made this area a national park, but it's not the most accessible national park ever, right? You can only get there by plane, boat, or there is a hike that you can use to get there, but it's like a super strenuous, super long, super stressful hike. So if you manage to go there, you're part of a handful of people that have ever managed to go explore the Nahanni Valley in the Canada's Northwest Territories. So there have been people that have gone there, just not like hundreds of people, right? So here's the problem with the Nahanni Valley, right? Pretty much everyone and every single tribe that has ever gone to the Nahanni Valley has all vanished from the area. One of the most well-known tribes. It's a little weird. One of the most well-known tribes was the Naha tribe, right? The Naha tribe was described from other people as this fierce, warlike group living in the mountains who raided lowland settlements. But then one day, they just didn't exist anymore. Like literally, nobody knows where they went. Nobody knows what happened to them. But apparently, other warriors found their camps in the middle of like a 200-mile gorge, completely empty. No bodies, no signs of a fight, no tools, nothing. It is just like the tribe vanished into thin air, like they evaporated. So, and then they were never seen from or heard from again. They just, middle of the night, just poof, gone. Other people and other tribes have vanished from the area as well, many of them saying they would be stalked and chased by creatures lurking in the forest. Many of them would describe these creatures as white demons, which is also really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But that is just the beginning, because
it's giving Skinwalker.
Right. Yeah, a little bit. And I just heard a weird noise. I don't know if my dog sneezed or if somebody's trying to break in, but either way, here we go. So, in 1904, Willie, Frank, and Charlie McLeod were three brothers, and they had heard the talks of, hey, listen, there's so much untapped gold in the Nahanni Valley, right? Like, there's so much untapped gold because nobody has ever really been there. So the three brothers are like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pack up our supplies. We're going to do as much as we can, and we're going to go out there and we're going to look for this gold. So they did. The three brothers, Willie, Frank, and Charlie, they packed all their stuff up And they went with the idea of returning wealthy men, right?
What were their names again? Frank, Charlie, and what?
Willie, Frank, and Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah. So as the three brothers are on their journey, as they get into the Nahanni Valley, they have to kind of travel up this river called the Flat River. So as they're traveling up this flat river, there's a certain point where like they've been traveling all day, super tired. They kind of see this little like land clearing. So they're like, we're going to pull up our boat in there. We're going to set up camp for the day and just see what's up. So they do. They pull up. They set up camp for the day. Everything's going well. And then as they set up the camp, they're like, we're going to do? We're going to go ahead, go down to the river. We're just going to start looking for gold now. Maybe we'll get lucky. So they take all their tools out and they start looking for gold. They still had some daylight left. So they start looking for some gold. And almost immediately, they found what they were looking for. They hadn't even reached the area that they had set to reach yet, but almost immediately they had found the gold that they had been searching for. So boom, there for the
That's
whole,
lucky.
it is, for the whole rest of the day and pretty much all of the night, the three brothers are just collecting as much gold as they possibly can. They didn't sleep. So then by the time the morning rolls around, they're like, okay, listen, we have collected so much gold that we have no other choice but to go back to our town, drop off the gold, and then come make another trip back up here. But at least we know now where the gold is. Like, if we found this much gold and we haven't even gotten to our area, who knows how much we've like left to find, right?
Yeah, like
So-
they hadn't even found their goal spot and they found
Right.
the best, like a good spot.
Right. And I mean, at this point, the three brothers were rich, so they were ecstatic, right? So they happily just pack up all their stuff and they start heading back. And as they made their way back, here's what we know. We don't know what happened, but it became clear that something happened to the three brothers. We don't know for certain what transpired. Some speculate that their boat was capsized due to the waves. Some say that they were attacked in the middle of the night and perhaps robbed while they slept. But their supplies, their gold, all of it was gone. So whenever the three brothers returned to town, they didn't want to talk about what happened, but they didn't have any of the gold, nor did they have any of the tools that they brought up there with them. But that's all we know. So then, when they got back home, the two younger brothers, which were Willie and Frank, they decided they were going to save up their money. They were going to recoup some of the supplies that they had lost, and they were going to head back into the Nahanni Valley to go search for more gold, which is fair because, again, they had found enough gold to be rich the first time around. And so they're like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So they did. Several months passed. They saved up enough money and they recouped the supplies. And they're like, okay, now we're going to go back up. We bought a new boat. We got all this stuff. We're going to go back up in there. Charlie, however, which is the oldest brother, he chose to stay behind this time. He said, I don't want to go. You guys have a good time. I'll see you when you get back. So the two younger brothers said, all right, we'll go without you. And instead, they replaced Charlie with a mysterious Scottish engineer whose identity still remains uncertain. Some sources say that his name might have been Wilkinson or Weir, but there's no definitive records to confirm those names. He was just, by all means, an unknown, mysterious Scottish engineer.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. So there they go. The two brothers, Willie and Frank, and then of course the Scottish engineer. They head off back into the Nahanni Valley. Days pass. No, we don't hear from him. Weeks pass, months pass. Eventually, 2 years go by, and in 1908, 2 full years later, no word from the brothers. Charlie says, okay, listen, we're going to have to figure this out, right? I got to go find my brothers. So he calls 6 other people that he knows, and he says, hey, we're going to form a search party, and we're going to go to Heather. We're going to go together. We're going to head into the Nahanni Valley. So they do. The 7 people in total, they head up to the Nahanni Valley. And Megan is taking selfies while I'm trying to tell my story.
Winston's being so cute.
Goodness, I have done so much research on this. And
I'm
you're
listening.
just
They're
naughty.
going back into the Nahanni Valley.
Okay, we're good then. Fine, Megan. Damn. And so yeah, they gather the people that go back into the Nahanni Valley. As they're back
Is
up
it
there,
Nahanni or Nahanni?
Nahanni.
Okay.
But speaking of Nahanni, I love you both.
Shut
You're
up.
so talented. I'm so happy we got to go to your first ever show. If you see this, we appreciate you. You guys are so talented. Thank you for all that you do. Anyway, all right. So
You're turning us into Nahanni stands, okay?
listen, I'm okay with being one of those. I love them both. Anyway, okay. So Charlie and 6 other people, they're in the Nahanni Valley. Days pass. They're still looking for Charlie's little brothers. Again, Very remote, very rugged, very unforgiving environment. But eventually, Charlie and his crew would press forward, following the trails that his brothers were likely to have taken. And eventually, he would find his brothers. So whenever Charlie McLeod and his search party finally found where his brothers were, he found Willie and Frank. And unfortunately, the scene was nothing short of chilling.
What about the Scottish engineer?
Megan, we are going to get there. So,
See, I told you I was listening.
so Charlie McLeod, he finds his brothers' bodies headless near a riverbank. They're laying there, their heads are not on their bodies, have no idea where their skeletons are. The remains suggest that the brothers had been attacked, perhaps while they were asleep. One of the brothers, possibly Frank, was found, his body was sprawled on the ground reaching for a gun, as if he'd kind of woken up in time to realize that there was danger, but not soon enough to kind of defend himself. And so that his body was there reaching toward a gun. Their camp was a mess. Their supplies were scattered everywhere. Their gold was not there. No tracks leading to any sort of culprit. No tracks leading anywhere. No explanation for why their heads had been taken or where their heads were. And what makes this even more intriguing is after the brothers were found, decapitated, the Scottish companion, little man, he was never seen again. Some believe that he may have been the one responsible for the deaths, while others say that he escaped, stole the gold. He just went into history and something completely separate happened to the two brothers. However, the crew did later find partial skeletal remains not too far down the river from where the brothers were. And although they were never confirmed, most people are attributing those remains to the Scottish man.
Okay.
Another intriguing thing found at the campsite where the McLeod brothers' bodies were found was a message carved into a tree near the campsite, and the carving read, quote, "We have found a fine prospect," end quote. A lot of people take that to mean that Willie and Frank had discovered something valuable, potentially the gold that they had been searching for before their deaths. Some believe that this was proof that they had, again, located the mine, the gold mine that they had been searching for, and a gold deposit rumored to exist deep in the Nahanni Valley. They're thinking, hey, we found it, finally. But mind you, there was no gold found anywhere. The gold they claimed to have found, couldn't find it anywhere. So, this story made it big, right? This discovery sent shockwaves through the towns, through all the regions. Locals began calling the area Dead Man Valley, and then nearby water.
That's fishy.
Yeah, a nearby waterway, the one where they found the bodies by, that one was deemed the Headless Creek because 2 people were found headless. But then it doesn't stop there, because the bodies were found in 1908. 1917, almost a decade later, another prospector named Martin Jorgensen entered the valley. He heard the stories of the McLeod brothers, and he was like, you know what, it's not going to happen to me. So he goes into the Nahanni Valley in search of the same gold, search of the same treasure. And people described him as a rugged man with years of frontier experience, and he was no stranger to hardship. So what he did is he's like, you know what, I'm going to go out here. And he ends up finding a spot, and he builds a cabin out here in the Nahanni Valley. He finds enough trees. He builds himself the cabin. He's determined to uncover the gold that people have talked about for years and years and years. And according to reports, he succeeded. He sent word back to his partners claiming that he had in fact struck gold. Some speculate that perhaps he found the McLeod's mine that they had been searching for. But then, shortly after that, nothing. Complete silence. Concerned by the lack of communication by Martin Jorgensen, a search party was launched to find him. Then, whenever they arrived at the cabin he had built, they were met with a sight that, again, was eerily similar to what they found at the McLeod's campsite.
A
A search party, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were met with a sight that was eerily similar to the McLeod's site, the McLeod's campsite. So they had found that not only was Martin Jorgensen laying next to his cabin with his head removed from his body, no idea
That's
where the
weird.
head was, but his home that he built was burned to the ground, nothing but ashes. Again, just like the McLeod's brothers years before. The police, however, did not connect the death of Jorgensen to the McLeod's, and he chalked it up to animals removing his head.
Okay, but I know it's been a while between the two.
Yeah,
deaths.
almost a decade, yeah.
But 3 people have their heads removed from their bodies. I mean, what do you think? A cougar just cuts people's heads off?
Right. I don't know what
Or
they're thinking.
I would say dire wolves, but they've been extinct for hundreds or thousands of years.
Not
but-
anymore,
Not
Megan.
anymore, but But what do they think? It's like a big old bear. He just cuts people's heads off.
Yeah,
That doesn't make any sense.
apparently. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's a theory, but we'll get into it. So that story was in 1917. We got another one here in 1926. So almost a decade after that, there was a man by the name of John O'Brien. John O'Brien, again, no stranger of danger to the wild. He, of course, heard about the stories of the Jorgensen man and the McLeod brothers, but he was like, you know what? Those things, not going to happen to me. So he goes out into the Nahanni Valley to find the gold, to find the thing that lured so many people there that people talked about for years. And whatever the reason for this, he sets up camp not very far from where the McLeod brothers' bodies have been found. But it's over almost 20 years later, so whatever. He's feeling it's fine. For a while, everything's going well. For Mr. John O'Brien, everything's going all right. He's working. He's a trapper, right? So he's trapping and surviving in the landscape of the Nahanni Valley. And then all of a sudden, now he's doing this with a partner, right? He's not out there by himself. He's doing this with a partner. But with that being said, at some point, he tells his partner, he's like, hey, I'm going to leave. We don't know why he left. He just said, hey, I'm going to go out for a little while. I'll be right back. So then 9 days later, he never came back. So the partner that he's there with, he's like, okay, we gotta go find this man. Some speculate that he went out for a better trapping grounds. Others think that he probably went out to search for the gold, see if he could find it himself. And if he could find it himself, he just wasn't going to come back. So when his partner realized that he wasn't coming back, he gets up and he goes out to try and find John O'Brien. Well, on his way out to try and find John O'Brien, he runs into another prospector. So he's telling this other prospector, like, what's going on? He can't find his friend. So him and the other prospector team up. And they're like, we're going to find you. We're going to find your friend together. So they're walking around for a little while. And eventually they come upon this campsite by the water. And when they come upon this campsite, they find John O'Brien. John O'Brien is sitting next to the campfire that he started, right? But here's the strange part. He's sitting up straight. He's not sprawled out on the ground. He's not someone who had succumbed to the elements. He's sitting upright, matches in his hand, but he's frozen solid. But then the weird part is authorities would say that there's no indication he had been battling the elements. It was as if he's just a man sitting there and time all of a sudden just stopped around him. He was flash frozen within seconds, which is weirdly odd to do. It shouldn't have been cold enough outside for that to happen. Plus, he was near a fire. Plus, they're saying that the look on his face, the campsite didn't seem to suggest a man that was battling elements. It seemed to suggest a man that was fine. Everything was going well. And then all of a sudden, he was just frozen solid. So that's another weird thing. Some people say he was just caught off guard by the temperatures. Others say, though, that something unnatural had taken a hold of the man. Something that perhaps the valley itself had decided to do.
I was gonna say that, like, maybe the land is protecting itself because it doesn't
Right.
want to be mined.
Right. So his death only deepened the mystery of the Valley of Headless Men, a place where fortune seekers apparently seem to just die. Weird deaths. They get frozen, their house burned down, and they found headless. No sword.
Say their heads get cut off somehow.
Yeah. But that's not where it ends, because then there's another story of a lady named Annie Lafferty. And this story is one of the strangest, potentially, that has ever been tied to the Nahanni Valley. Because in 1926, Annie Lafferty was part of a hunting expedition near the Flat River, which was deep in the valley. But then one night, she's sleeping with the rest of her hunting party, and she vanishes completely without a trace. So the next morning, her hunting party wakes up, and they're like, where's Annie? So then they're like, all right, we got to go find this girl. So they start searching for her. She's nowhere to be found. Months later, a local hunter named Big Charlie was in the area. He had, of course, heard the stories of Annie Lafferty. And he's asleep one night, and he keeps hearing rocks fall into the water near him. So it wakes him up, and when he wakes up, he takes his flashlight, he shines it up, and he sees a woman completely naked climbing a hill on all fours. So he looks at this, and he's like, wait a minute, there's been a woman that's been missing around this area named Annie Lafferty. This might be her. Maybe she's in danger. So he takes his flashlight, grabs whatever form of protection, and he takes off after her. He's like, you know what? I'm going to run out there. I'm going to figure out what's going on. So he does.
Was it a flashlight, or would it have been like a lantern?
Probably a lantern, because it's 1926. So likely it was a lantern. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, by the way, is in the same year John O'Brien was frozen to death. But anyway, so he takes his lantern and he's running out. He finds her. He catches up to whoever this lady was. Here's the weird part. When he catches up to her, "Ma'am, are you okay? Ma'am, are you good?" She stops, turns to him. And what this man named Big Charlie would say is that her face didn't look like a human's face. It looked like perhaps she was transitioning into something.
Into
Like she
what?
was like he said, it looked like she was possessed by something. And that whatever she was possessed by, she perhaps was transitioning into.
I don't like that.
Mind you, at the beginning of the story, we talked about white demons running around. So, I don't know. No one ever found her, though. Annie Lafferty was never found. Nobody ever learned what happened. Some people believe she just lost her sanity and wandered into the wilderness, never to return. Others believe that, again, the forest, something going on unnaturally, supernaturally in the forest, claimed her, like it did many before. Her disappearance remains one of the most chilling tales of the Nahanni Valley, or the Valley of Headless Men. However, it doesn't end there, because then in 1931, a guy by the name of Phil Powers came in. He sets up camp deep in the Nahanni Valley, again determined to find the gold that so many people before had looked for. But then, eventually, nothing. His camp fell silent, a search party was gathered, and then launched to try and find him. And his story is also quite weird, because they found him, and much like the other gentleman, much like he built a cabin. And his cabin was burnt to the ground. But they're saying that the fire in this cabin began on the roof, which is an unusual place for the fire to ignite naturally. So, given the way that the flames have spread, Phil Powers should have been able to escape the cabin, but he never did. Why did he never escape the cabin? Many people believe that he was already dead before the cabin started fire. But, much like the other people before him, he was found headless next to his burnt down house.
It really sucks because it probably takes them months to build those cabins, and they just
Right.
get burned down all
They're just getting
willy-nilly.
burned down. Well, he doesn't care. He doesn't have a head. He can't even
No.
see it. He can't even see it. Anyway, this, of course, led to speculation that someone or something has been killing people and then burning their cabins down. Who knows? The circumstances surrounding his death were, again, similar to those of Jorgensen, the McLeod brothers, and many before him. Then, 5 years after that, a guy by the name of William Epler and another guy by the name of Joseph Mulholland, they were trappers working in the Nahanni Valley in 1936, and they had set up a cabin deep in the wilderness, living off the land, running their trap lines. But then they too vanished. Concerned by their sudden disappearance, a guy by the name of George D.L., which is a well-known trapper, ended up flying up to the Nahanni River to check on them. And when he got there, he found their cabin had also burned to the ground, but there was no sign of either man. So unlike the others, their bodies were never found. Just charred remains of the home, standing as evidence as if they had hardly ever been there at all. And then in 1945, a guy by the name of Ernest Savard, who was a miner from Ontario, set off into the Nahanni Valley, again looking for the gold, but like those who came before him, McLeod, Jorgensen, Phil Powers, etc., he would not make it out of the forest alive. His body was found in a sleeping bag by the water, and his head was severed. A grim, unsettling scene, just like the others that had come before him. And the mysteries don't stop there. Since the 1900s, over 40 people, mostly hunters, explorers, and prospectors, have gone missing or have been found dead within the Nahanni Valley. Many were experienced outdoorsmen who had survived much harsher terrain than the Nahanni Valley offered. Some bodies were found torn apart completely. Others were found preserved, much like the guy who was flash frozen. Seemingly, their bodies were almost untouched, yet they were dead. Most were found with their heads gone, just like the McLeod brothers and just like Jorgensen. A few survivors have emerged from the valley over the decades, but none of them really want to speak about what they saw.
I mean,
Nobody wants to talk about it.
I feel like you hear about enough people going missing from somewhere, you don't go there.
Right. But then that's the thing is, what is drawing these people there? Is it the gold? Surely, but it might
gold.
be.
Because it's not, if the land is protecting itself, it's not the land, because the land doesn't want you there.
True. Very true. But yeah, they don't want to talk about what they found. Almost like they can't, maybe. Who knows? But, however, there have been people that have spoken about what they've seen. One person described seeing glowing eyes watching him from across the river at night. Another prospector who spent 3 days in the region claims that he was hearing voices in the stones, and he said that as he walked deeper in the forest, the whispers grew louder. There are also accounts of First Nations tribesmen walking up to explorers in their campsites, warning them about white figures moving throughout the valley at night, like the white demons. And there are a lot of theories behind this. A lot of people think it's a curse or spirits, like the land itself is cursed. Like you said, maybe the land itself is trying to protect itself. Some locals believe that ancient spirits guard the valley. Again, like exacting vengeance on those who seek to disturb its balance or take the gold or anybody that seems to threaten the land in any way. Some people think that there are descendants of the Neha or an undiscovered reclusive tribe that still lives there, and then they protect the outsiders, and they're the ones setting the houses on fire and cutting the heads off of people.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, except for the fact that these span over decades.
Well, I mean, if it's like because we've talked about the like different tribes of people who live in like Alaska who are not uncivilized. I hate not that word, but like not involved in other people. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a word for it, but I can't think of the word. But there's probably people like that in the uncharted wilderness of Canada.
Right.
So
I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's kind of like, why would that make it to where the people wouldn't talk about it? Like, what are these people seeing? Like, what are the white demons that people are seeing move around? Because it's not just like it's been one person. It's been multiple people claim that they've seen white shadows moving around. And that's interesting.
I mean, maybe they wear white clothing or
maybe
have because surely whatever animals are in the area, if it's a snowy area, which it surely is because it's so far north, they would have white fur. Like,
sure,
do you know what I mean?
Maybe.
So
maybe
the pelts that they're wearing are going to be white, or if it's a tribe of people who've lived there for decades and generations, they've probably evolved to their specific surroundings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to be darker skinned because they're not in an area where they need to be darker skinned.
Maybe. That's a fair point. There's more pragmatic theories. One of them suggests that rival treasure hunters come in and that they've killed others people to keep them away from the gold, but it doesn't explain the repeated decapitations.
I mean, it's possible, but the consistency in people dying, like the way that they're dying, doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Some suggest that the Nahanni Valley is dangerous, and it is. There's steep canyons, there's sudden storms, there's thermal springs that can, mess you up. There's grizzly bears, there's avalanche zones. Some say it's a graveyard for the unprepared. But for many, they weren't unprepared. They had been through much harsher environments. So yeah, those are just some of the theories. Even now, though, the Nahanni Valley National Park remains one of the most least explored wildernesses in North America. Vast sections are accessible only by plane or days of hiking. There are mists that cling to the mountains. The hot springs bubble. They're very warm. But most say there's
hot springs are.
Yeah, but they say that they're eerily warm is what the thing is. There's a sense of being watched for most people that say that they are in the Nahanni Valley. There is a sense of being watched. There's a sense of stepping into something unwelcoming, something supernatural, many say. There was a researcher that walked in there in 1936, I believe, and he was there for, 4 days? And he left, and his only note was that you can feel that there's a sense of evil in this forest. To some,
that's creepy.
Yeah. To some, it's sacred ground. To others, it's cursed. But the Valley of Headless Men, you should not go there. So don't go there.
It sounds like you shouldn't go there regardless.
Yeah. One thing we know for certain, whatever is going on in the Valley of Headless Men, it's keeping a good secret.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's just like people going to, I get people hiking stuff, but it just seems like you shouldn't go somewhere if you're not prepared for it.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, but that's the thing is, who's saying that these people weren't prepared? I think these people were much more prepared than you or I would have been.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know. It always creeps me out when you do forest stuff because the forests are creepy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think, if you want my perspective, my opinion after hearing the story, 2 likely scenarios here. Well, maybe not likely, but 2 kind of things that go back and forth in my head. It seems pretty likely to me that there is a tribe or tribes of people who feel inclined to protect the land. And so
Okay.
when outsiders come in, they do what they feel they need to in order to protect the land. And that's why the MOs are so similar, and why some people might make it back and some people don't, just because of the location and, like where they might have been at, And that, of course, gets passed down through generations of said clan, tribe, whatever you want to call it.
Clan tribe.
Yeah. Or the land, maybe it does have some supernatural stuff going. Maybe it's protecting itself. Maybe there's things there that we as humans are not supposed to be able to see or access, and the earth is doing its thing to protect itself.
That could be the case. That could very well be the case.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before, right? Like, if you've listened to my past episodes, I think that there is. I'm just going to go back and say the thing that I've said in the past, right? Like, we are scared. A wide variety of people are scared of the oceans because we don't know what is in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we also there's a large possibility that we also don't know what's on land with us, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what's in national parks and forests. We don't know what creatures that exist there that are perhaps smarter than us. And I think that there have been an overwhelming amount of stories of people disappearing, like that lady who was just in the woods and she was like with her husband, and they come up to a clearing of like an overlook. And there's at the clearing, there was no trees, there were no stones, there was nothing. I mean, it was just wide open. And they're both looking over, and they're standing a decent ways back from the edge. He turns around, looks behind him, walks 2 steps, turns around, and his wife is gone. She didn't fall over the edge. There's no signs of her like being drug off by an animal. There's no trees or rocks for her to hide around. So where'd she go?
Yeah.
They searched the cliff where she fell off of for caves, for places that she could have fallen off. And I mean, it is just a straight drop down. There isn't like ledges. It is just a straight drop. You would have seen her
the
fall
fourth
down.
time we've talked about this.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like you have the story of the people, the brother and sister who walked into a national park, and they were there for a while, and all of a sudden he comes to, like, he blacks out, but then when he comes to, he's at his car. He's like, okay. And he very clearly has a memory of him and his sister walking back. His sister went to go to their uncle's house or something. And so he drives away, and then he calls his mom, and his mom is like, where the hell have you been? You guys have been missing for like 3 days. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Like, I was just camping. And they're like, well, where's your sister? And he's like, yeah, she's at your brother's house. Like, he's at Uncle whatever's house. So they call him. And he's like, yeah, no, dude, I don't know where she is. She's certainly not here. So then they launch an investigation. They go back in the woods. They find her, and she's still in the woods. She's lost. She's forever and a half away from where they were last seen. And she's blacked out. She's walking around. She's doing weird things. She's acting strange, but she's blacked out. Whenever they get her back, she can't remember anything. He can't remember anything. But it's weird because he has a very specific memories of them making it out of the forest together and her going to the uncle's house, but that never happened. So it's just like, man, we have so many cases of people going missing in these parks and these forests under circumstances that don't make any kind of sense.
Yeah.
Kids being found 40 miles away from where they were just, they went missing from their parents 4 weeks ago. They were 40 miles from where they were last seen, and there's not a scratch on them.
Yeah.
And then they disappeared for 40 miles up the side of a rugged mountain that professionals don't climb easily. So it's just like, yeah, what I think is, no, I think there is something that we don't, I think there's something or multiple things that we don't know about that are in the forests that we coexist with here on this planet that are much smarter than we are, that don't want to be found.
Yeah.
And with these stories, I don't know, man, maybe it was just other people. Maybe it was a serial killer that just wanted the gold for himself. Maybe it was tribes that were known to be aggressive living out there, right? And honestly, that probably makes the most sense.
Like, maybe there's a very simple, plausible explanation, but
Yeah.
maybe it's something completely different and we're just looking to explain it away, kind of thing.
But I mean, even if this story really is just a tribe just killing people that stay out there, there's still so many things that don't make sense in parks and forests. That's just like, nah, man, there's something going on out there that we can't explain. And quite frankly, We don't need to. That's not, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, right? Like, I think there's a spiritual realm out there that we don't need to know exists. That's what I think.
I think there's certainly something out there that we aren't supposed to know about.
Yeah.
Because if we were supposed to know about it, we would have found it already.
It's El Chapo's cocaine hippos.
Hippos.
That's what it is. We just let them in the wild and they're out there murking people. That's what I think. That's my final answer. I'm locking it in.
They've evolved into different creatures. They have thumbs now.
They do. Yeah, they have opposable thumbs.
They can walk on 2 feet instead of 4.
Whenever they leave a calling card,
Yeah.
all it says is #NugLife.
They learned that from El Chapo
Yeah.
and his mob. Oh, sorry, it's not a mob, cartel.
Whoa, okay, whoa, Megan, damn. We're trying to live healthy lives over here. But yeah, that's what I think, guys. Like and subscribe if you like this story. We have more stories like this constantly. We're constantly coming up with weird content. And yeah, Megan, anything to add?
Use code SUMMER25 and get 25% off of your merch at WTFTpodcast.com.
.com. All right, now. Guys, don't be dumb. Love you. Good night. We'll see you next week.
Bye.